And on one hand, it's been so much damn fun. You know, working for David, I'm pretty fortunate in the things we get to work on. There's a bunch of people with way more experience than me. Maybe even way better individual reputations. Their careers maybe lie on that because they're on their own. That'll never work on any piece of ground like this, not even freaking close.
In part 7 of this series on growing Gamble Sands, in addition to learning about the homestretch of holes 14 through 18, we're getting to know Nick Schaan, who has been working with David McLay Kidd for 20 years.
Yeah, it's like being on the back of an aircraft carrier.
Well, we shorten it up, and now the ball's definitely going down the hill off the tee, right?
So maybe it has to go, you know.
We can do that. Yeah. So I first came here, gosh, the very first visit when we came here with Orrin Vincent, before we even built anything. And, you know, growing up in Seattle and, you know, knowing this being kind of the recreation hub, summer hangout, you know, from here down to, you know, all the way to Kennewick, it's awesome. You know, the orchards, the cast telling us about sand dunes on the Columbia River. I mean, it's off the hook.
Born in North Dakota, Schaan was raised in a suburb of Seattle where, like most kids, he played a lot of sports. But golf and golf course design emerged as his favorites.
Other than being able to build something on the coast, I mean, this whole belt along the Columbia River has pockets of sand dunes, and, you know, nobody's touched it in the state of Washington. And just, you know, awesome opportunity. You know, cool place to be part of something in the, you know, state I grew up.
From Washington State, where he got a degree in landscape architecture, Schaan worked as an apprentice for John Harbottle, a prominent golf course architect in the Northwest. Then he worked for the contractor who built Chambers Bay, host of the 2015 U.S. Open.
You know, a lot of people don't come this far north up the river, and just, you know, the landscape and the, you know, the vertical walls. My wife's grandparents were homesteaders, you know, 30 minutes north of here. So I'd been here before, just never in a golf capacity, and it's cool, it's unique. So I didn't know it at the time, but my wife's grandparents used to sell fruit through the packaging system, that whole system, to the Gevers. Their fruit was packed by the Gevers.
That would be about 180 feet. Well, somewhere between 150 and 180 feet.
So 40 yards wide to where I cleared, 120 feet.
It's not very much.
After joining Kidd's team in 2006, Schaan has worked on several projects, most notably Huntsman Springs in Idaho, Mammoth Dunes in Wisconsin, and Rolling Hills in Southern California. During the COVID lockdown, Schaan spent 4 months building Quicksands, the par 3 course at Gamble Sands.
I think a lot of people see, you know, think of Washington, think Seattle and rain, right? There's no rain here. There's not a lot of people. It's a bunch of hard-working people that have been here for, you know, since the turn of the century. I think there's a lot of stories to be told here. It's a pretty rugged country.
Cool that the Nick Schaan story of growing up in Washington and loving architecture intersects with his opportunity to take the lead on the course called Scarecrow.
We're lucky enough to get to do all of the golf here at Gamble Sands. We've, you know, did the main course and the putting course and the par 3 course and now the second 18. Everyone says, how's it going to be different? And so for us too, we were like, how's it going to be different? So Nick and I, having worked together now for 20 odd years, he was like, maybe I should take the lead more than you. And I was like, you know what? That's probably a good idea. You know, why don't you take the lead on this and I'll play kind of support. I'll be your backstop. I'll be your sounding board. It's a collaborative co-authoring thing, but Nick has it by the, you know, has the dragon by the tail and he's running with it, and that's cool, and that's part of how I hope we end up with 2 golf courses that share a DNA, but they're not replicates. There's a different creative energy on the second course than there was in the first course. In fact, I'm the only person on the team that was involved in both. Nobody involved in that second course was involved in the first one.
Before getting to the finishing stretch of Scarecrow, let's go back to the start with Schaan as our narrator. Here he is on the land he was working with and the routing they decided on.
Playing the first hole through here kind of sets up this whole sense of exploration. You get to where we're at right now and we're in this little bit higher saddle and you can see across to other parts of the golf course, but you don't really quite know where they are or where you're going yet. And we're gonna head all the way up to where that excavator is. Top of the hill is the 5th hole. And from there you get another view that is laying out the turn. You see the river for the first time. And as we make our way through the 8th hole, you walk off the 8th green and up this dune onto 9 where you're staring right down the river. And you start to kind of see things that you saw before, little pieces of, and there's this just sense of exploration that makes a lot of sense. And so once you get there, you gotta find your way back and trying to find a sequence of holes that works where you're making other discoveries as you go along. So there's this really cool sequence of hiking through this set of dunes to get out to that point and then to get all the way back, which I think is really neat. I think that sense of adventure is the big idea that leads to how we lay out a golf course. I think the finish starts at 14T because that's where you come off 13 green, you're looking west at the river, you turn your focus east to southeast, and you're away from the river. And once you crest over the dune, in between the tee shot and the approach shot to 14 green, you're back in the bottom of the canyon and you don't see the river again. And I think that's where, you know, the journey home starts. Into the wind, it could be a chore. The green is really big. It's, I think, our 3rd largest green on the golf course. It's probably our wildest green on the golf course. 15, par 5, massively wide fairway, probably has the most cross slope terrain of any hole out here. So you're playing it up over a set of bunkers and the green sits in a tight little valley that you can get after or you're laying up short of. And again, where you lay it up in terms of left or right, long or short, probably really matters depending on where the flag is. 16, not intentionally, just by the piece of land, is, you know, takes a lot of inspiration from 6 on the first course. Right to left par 3 down the hill where you can go right at it if you choose, or you can, in this case, you can throw it way out to the left and watch it disappear and watch it reappear, and, you know, good things may happen. And then 17 and 18 play through some pretty wild dunes that are really intimate, really cool. I think you could take 17 and put it in, you know, any place in the Sandhills in Nebraska and it would not look foreign at all. You'd be totally lost. We blindfolded you, dropped you out there, you'd have no idea where you were. So 18, we ended up with a really cool green site as a short 4. It plays over the edge of the canyon that is, when we were placing the green, David's like, this is our Pacific Ocean for this site. It's gotta be, you know, right here somewhere along this spot. And as we worked through the shaping and the design, it kind of revealed itself exactly where it needed to be. So we hope people are gonna get one back coming home.
Bringing Kidd back into the conversation, and specifically on the fact that Scarecrow's 18th will be compared to the 16th at Bandon Dunes.
I'd love that comparison. I'll take that one all day long. Which one's better, the 18th here or the 16th at Bandon? Even to be in the same frame of reference would be great. So I'll take either of those. The great thing is, as I keep telling golfers over and over, this is not a binary choice. You can play both. You don't have to, you can have a favorite, but it doesn't make the other one not so great. So I hope that everybody who's ever played Bandon 16 comes up here and plays the 18th here and tries to decide if what they think. I would say that almost 30 years on, I hope I've learned a little more. So from a strategic point of view, the 16th at Bandon is hard to hold that green. You know, I'm hoping that this green has a little more strategy to it as a drivable par 4, and there's a better chance of being able to run it down and onto that green.
The comparisons out here won't end with Scarecrow's 18th to Bandon's 16th. Commence the ongoing debate on which is better, Gamble Sands or Scarecrow.
You've got to compete with yourself.
And everybody who ever plays that is going to make the evaluation better or worse, right? And you know, this has got 10 years of history and exceeded expectations. Now you've got 0 years of history and high expectations. You know, that's a much harder bar to cross than this was. So you're right. I mean, and that's, you know, that we totally get that. I mean, it's not lost on Nick and I that that's completely true. And the great thing about golf is history is measured in centuries. I mean, it isn't measured in centuries yet here, but it's measured in centuries where I come from.
He and I are a little bit competitive, and you know, he challenged us to, do we think we could build something as good as the first one? So we didn't want to be as good as, we're trying darn hard to be just a little better. Can't wait to see what the debate in the bar sounds like come next fall.
But we'll do the best we can possibly do, and it probably takes decades for things to mature, the two courses to even up in terms of their history, the players to appreciate them, and then the true decider of which one the masses think is better than the other would come out. And you know, not much I can do about that right now. We can't worry about it. Just build the best thing you can and keep going.
One's not better or worse. I wouldn't say they're both awesome. They're both really good.
The whole time, you know, I'm thinking, which one do I like more? And it was just an ongoing dialogue in my head, and I don't know that I ever came to an answer.
They're both great courses. Yeah, I'm definitely coming back.